So would love to know where are you from and what do you do? Cool. So Deepika from Jaipur, wonderful. The best thing to do currently, full-time mom. Outstanding. Rest all are following Deepika's lead by just checking into Jaipur or what? Yeah, hi Sandeep, another Mumbaiker. Wonderful. So we have life coaches, and Deepika is a published author. By the way, she did not mention, so I'm doing that on her behalf. Siana is from Mumbai, entrepreneur. Joy, wonderful, an educator. Bhairavi is from Mumbai, wow, content writer. Arumugam is from Chennai, leadership coach. Marvelous. Okay. Kumar Swami is a teacher from Telangana. Outstanding. Wow. So we have educators, coaches, writers, software engineers, entrepreneurs. Wonderful. Great. Yeah, Puri is a wonderful mindfulness coach and a very good friend as well. But Heena from Jaipur, living in Moradabad. Interesting. Manjulata, yeah. Oh, wow. Deepashri hails from several places. So it's like Pune, Mumbai, Dharwad has worked in IT industry. Interesting. Outstanding. Marvelous. So welcome to all of you to How to Be a 5-Star Storyteller. And those who know me, you know me not just by my name, but also from my life also, because you have been a part of Writernaama community. And for those who are new here or are seeing me for the first time, at least I am seeing so many names for the first time. So I'm Heena M. Shrivastava. Before any other designation, I'm just making it a bit more creative. So maybe you can call me a fertilizer of thoughts. So I fertilize the papers, and that's how, I fertilize the perspectives. And why I gave that introduction, because you be ready with your metaphor. That would be the first exercise for us to do. That what metaphor would you give to introduce yourself? And let's play around with that, because that's one of the traits of a 5-star storyteller, that they introduce themselves a bit differently. Maybe it's just a one-liner, and after that, the normal information continues. So the normal information, talking about that, I'm an author of 4 books. I am founder of Writernaama, where you are currently inside the academy session. And Writernaama is an online writing academy. I hail from journalism background, but I left it despite working in good names like Times of India and Hindustan Times, because somewhere creativity was my calling, not the report-centric or the template-based writing. And books have been my siblings since childhood. Maybe I did siblings. That is why my dad was filling this void by every time not just getting me the books, but also making me tie rakhis to the books, so that I understand that books will always be there with me. So since then, apart from what my parents have made me by inculcating values, what my education has done to me, I would not go ahead without crediting these books, which have made me today what I am, because I'm a book writing coach as well. So there are 30 plus people who have written books under my guidance in last 3 years. And yes, the journey continues. It's a beautiful journey. I'm now a certified NLP trainer and a certified ICF PCC coach also, and TEDx speaker. And trust me, if you ask me what matters amongst all of these, I would just say that writing and making people write, and especially making people think. And that's what we are going to do here. That was a little bit of introduction. I elongated that so that you could think about your metaphors. So time to pitch in your metaphors here. How would you introduce yourself? Maybe in just one line, but what is the metaphor you're going to use for yourself? Maybe it is for work, that is fine. It is for motherhood, that is also fine. But use a metaphor. Just like I use that, you can call me a fertilizer on paper for perspectives. So come on, let's tap into the mindset of a 5-star storyteller. Let's tap into the identity of a 5-star storyteller and experiment the way you introduce yourself. You can use metaphor for your city also, like Mumbai, the city which never sleeps. But that awakens me to to follow my passion. You can use the metaphor for your work. Wow, Purvi is a vessel of presence. So beautifully described. Absolutely loved it. Wow. And especially describing just by your name. That's very captivating. Marvelous. So don't worry whether the metaphor would look good, not, or cute, or not, or silly. That's completely fine. Oh, Farhina says she's a cultivator of mind with right thinking and perspective. Very interesting. Bhervi says I'm a dreamer and believer. Interesting. Try using a metaphor, and I'm sure you'll come up with something. Maybe, gardener of thoughts, or many other things are there. Wow, gardener. The next answer is gardener, nurturing others as a coach. Very, very beautiful one. Sandeep, a nano transformer. Wow, very powerful. Interesting. So let's take a minute more till the metaphors are pouring in, and then we'll tap into the 5-star storytelling. Creative rainbows of roles. Wow, Archana, that's a very cute, very different one. I'm a salt. Wow. So salt cleanses, according to me. And thank you for not clarifying that, because everybody will have a different meaning over there. For me, salt not just cleanses you, but also the right amount of salt really matters. Wow. Joy says, I'm a cauldron of thoughts waiting to spill and spell others. Wow. Very enchanting. Karishma says, I quiet lighthouse. I'm in shifting fog. Wow. Deepika says, wow, queen of letters. Wonderful. Very beautiful. Ankita says, I'm a dream catcher. Wow. Marvelous, marvelous. And trust me, when you're doing this, I would say that, make a note of that. Keep experimenting with these things. And whenever you're introducing yourself anywhere, when you use even the single one-liner, that captures attention. And that's the very first trait of not just being a 5-star storyteller, but actually considering yourself the storyteller. So no matter what, the point here is that, are you really practicing the lifestyle of a storyteller? And that begins with you introducing yourself the way a storyteller does. So everything which we will be doing today, whether it is a mindset related hack, whether it is a technique, all those things, if they are in practice, then they come on your identity. And that's what the whole objective of this session is. And that's why I could have said 5-star storytelling, but I wanted to tap on the identity part, that it has to be, we all are 5-star storytellers. It has to come on identity. And once it comes on identity, there's nothing which can stop you. Because, say for example, whatever blockages, excuses I might have in my journey of writing, but the whole soul thing, or the actions which me having books as siblings, me reading so many books, me writing stories, all those created my identity inside, and a belief that my stories are worth sharing. If this belief wouldn't have got inculcated in an identity, I don't think so I would have continued. I would have just maybe, lived a template based life where, I was working with Times of India. I tried the Hindustan Times also, and my articles were getting published. I could have just stopped there, because I would have stopped dreaming. I would have stopped believing in myself. But just because I had this belief that my stories are worth sharing, I had the courage to leave such prestigious companies also, and thought to take my own path. So yes, that's why 5-star storyteller and not just storytelling, because storytelling is just an act, but storyteller is you. Okay. Oh, wow. Voracious reader of English stories. Wonderful. So those who have joined new, you have to introduce yourself through a metaphor in the chat box. Meanwhile, we'll move forward with today's session. Okay. So let me just share the screen. Okay. So quickly, at least a person or two can tell me about a memory. It can be a good memory or a bad one, not so good one. or a very exciting one, but tell me about a memory. Somebody can unmute and talk about it. Who is ready to do that? Any memory, doesn't matter. It can be happiest, it can be saddest, it can be craziest, it funniest.
So I have one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's I mean, it happened just a couple of days ago. So I mean, it just came up. So when you said the weirdest, so I was gardening my plants the other day, and our neighbors, they also have 3-4 plants right next, and they're not there for a week. They've gone out. So as I finished gardening my plants, I was looking at their plant, and I was like, should I water them or should I not water them? And then the thought came, let me skip it. And as I went inside my home, my dad said, hey, can you water their plants? Because they told me to water them because they're going away. And I was like, was the plant telling me, hey, please water me? And I didn't listen to it. So should I be more aware of my intuitions and be more aware that somebody is communicating with me? So that was kind of, has been behind my back for the last few days, that there are so many things that I have this intuition for and they happen. So I must start capturing and writing so that my intuition power becomes more and more refined.
Wow. Wow. Very wonderful one, very insightful and heartwarming. Thank you so much, Sandeep, for sharing. Anyone else? One more memory from anybody? Yeah, Dipashri. Okay, Manjulata, after Dipashri, I'll unmute.
No issues.
Yeah. Yeah, Dipashri.
Okay, so this is a memory about a role I had performed in a play a couple of years ago. And I performed a very, very small role of Tratika in an entire 2-hour play. It was like a 2-minute, 3-minute role or something, not more than that. 2-minute role.
Okay.
But like during practice itself, so when I did that and when Ram shoots the arrow and I act like I'm dead, so one of the other actors, co-actors, had come up to check whether that arrow really hit me, the way I performed that role. And that made me realize that even if it is one small bit that you are doing, if you want that entire play to kind of come across as good, that every small bit matters. It does not matter whether your role is a small one or a big one. And it's not just in a play. That's what I realized. I mean, even at home. So I could bring that analogy home, that even if I'm doing some small bits and pieces of things at home, they are contributing to getting that big picture together.
Wow, wow. That's very beautiful. That's actually a perspective shift, I would say. Interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so yeah, Manjulata, you wanted to share one memory?
Basically, I love reading and enjoy that. And the memorizing way is the story way I memorize. Like that will be, there is a flow in it.
Yeah.
And I enjoy movies a lot. And stories make me remember the things very well, sometimes connected or disconnected way. So whatever the topic which is connected or not connected. And from childhood, we've been listening to a lot of the stories from mythology and others. And so I connect to storytelling way and proper structure way, and some of the gaps what I have, I want to fill them, for which I'm interested in this part. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so question to all of you. When Sandeep and Dipashri shared their stories, what were two common things that stood out? When they were sharing their memories, what were two common things that stood out? Those were common things. Feelings. On point, Sienna. Because there was a feeling for Sandeep, that feeling was a curiosity. Or that might be joy at the end when he realized that, that was a coincidence and that was so beautifully, he could tap into his intuition. So it might have converted into joy, but might have started with curiosity. And he's the best one to tell that. And similarly for Dipashri, maybe that was a kind of perspective shift, but there was an emotion involved over there. Maybe somewhere she felt that importance, that importance which was given to her as a very small part of being into that drama. And again, there was an emotion involved. So the first part, which is very common whenever you ask anybody any memory, whether it is a sad one, good one, it will always have emotions. And because it is having that emotion, you can tell it into a form of a story. If, let's take the reverse part, if Sandeep, if this was not a story, he could have simply said, okay, I found my intuition while watering the plants, and that maybe, and that would have become a puzzle for us till the time he describes that. Or maybe my intuition is very good because I can connect with plants, and I think plants talk to me. There was no story over there, but here there was a lot of curiosity. There was a bit of confusion, whether should I do or should I not. That was a kind of conflict in his story. And then finally it got resolved when his father said the same thing. Although very small thing, but still there was a conflict. There was a mental conflict whether to do or not to do. So that's the whole part. And all this happened only because there was an emotion of curiosity involved over there. Similarly, in case of Dipashri, she could have directly said that, once my perspective shift, once my perspective shift, because, I was given importance in drama, or maybe something like where I just used to think that small parts in drama are not really paid attention to, but my perspective shift in one such drama where I was given importance, and there was no story. But when she described it in a way where there was an emotional charge into that, where there was a conflict in her mind that maybe I would not be given that sort of importance, but that perspective got shifted when she was given that attention. So there is always an emotional charge in any memory. So whenever you feel that, I don't have memories, I don't have stories around, think about a memory. And immediately a story will come up, because all the memories are scientifically connected. They are memories because there is an emotion. And if there is an emotion, that can be converted into a story. So all your memories, whatever it is, sad, happy, or idiotic one, or weirdest one, all will have some or the other message when you now look back at them. So that was something which, apart from, we all know what storytelling is, how it can be useful, not just in your content, but also in talking, but also in your coachings, but also in therapies, but also in writing books and whatnot. So I am not tapping into that part, which is the very known part. And we are directly jumping into the 5-star storyteller's identity. This is something which I found really interesting as a quote: scratch the surface in the boardroom, and we are all just caveman with a briefcase, hungry for a wise man to tell us stories. So even the boardroom needs stories, and the biggest, or I would say the best example, live example of that, Jeff Bezos, who has stopped doing PPTs in his company, and they are now only doing the, what is that called? The 30 minutes narrative. They all have to write, and then they discuss rather than doing a PPT and having a presentation. He has stopped that. And that has given them a lot of depth, because it has so many stories, so many incidents. And through those incidents, they understand the nitty-gritties of what is happening inside the company. And that's one of the best practices, and has been, I would say, a real example of how much important storytelling is, and how beautifully it has been picked up in all these organizations. Okay, so let's move forward. Who is a 5-star storyteller? That's the whole crux of today's session. What's their mindset? So you'll get some mindset hacks also. But all the hacks, whatever we are talking about today, will be used only if you're practicing that. So keep on practicing them. They are new. Even if they are not new, the practice would be definitely new. So some might be known to you, some practices might be unknown to you. So it's a combination of those, and some might not be known to you. So what do they do different that makes the difference? Let's see. So we will decode one by one, and we will have exercise for everything. So the very first one, as I started the session with metaphors, they use metaphors, not always, but yes, wherever it is necessary, first of all. And secondly, a metaphor, they use common metaphors. It's not like a metaphor which is used. I could have used a metaphor. Okay, I'm not audible. Just a moment.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I could have used and said, ki, I'm the founder of Writernaama, and Writernaama is Hogwarts for writers, but Hogwarts might not be known by everybody. So using common metaphors like garden, common metaphors like farmer, common metaphors like fertilizer, which is known to everybody. And that puts a lot of brownie points into your stories. So let's do this exercise. What would be your metaphor for storytelling? For me, as I said, it is a cement of your mansion of influence. For me, it is that. What is that? What is storytelling for you? So that's the first takeaway for all of you. To be a 5-star storyteller, use metaphors. What is storytelling for you? For me, it is a cement for the mansion of your influence. My mom used to tell us stories whenever she wanted to drive a point home. Yeah. In fact, that was my dad's trait also. He used to either ask me questions, those used to be metaphoric ones, or he used to, tell me many stories. In fact, I remember till I was 10, I used to listen bedtime stories from him. So every day there used to be Kahani Sunauna. Okay, Purvi says, storytelling is a glue that holds the audience together. Interesting. Without stories, boardroom becomes boardroom. Very interesting, Meher sir. Fragrance to the flower. Very interesting. Tapaswini. Siana says storytelling is cooking a delicious recipe with the ingredients of facts and adding spices of emotions. Wow. Very interesting. So now you guys are doing the talking. Wonderful. Archana says storytelling is communication for connections. Yes. So to think in terms of metaphors, what is storytelling like? Is it like a rose? If it is like a rose, then how? Is it like a clock? If it is like a clock, then how? Is it like a book? If it is like a book, then how? So find something which is similar to storytelling and find the common factors. Manjulata says storytelling is like painting vivid pictures with colors, oil, and water, and many more. Wonderful. Storytelling is a bridge connecting conscious with subconscious. Wow, very deep, Manoj sir. The Dipashri says storytelling is gentle tool to open brains and hearts to absorb our influence. So kind of brain surgery. Very interesting. Storytelling is refill to our lucky pen. Wow. Wow. Very interesting. Storytelling is a butterfly that brings beauty and joy in a garden. Interesting way to explain joy. Thank you, Joy, for that. Great. Convey complex things in simple way and give me a metaphor for that. It might take a bit of time to inculcate these metaphors if you haven't used before, but the time is now. It's a lens, definitely. It's definitely. So time to change the lens through which you look at the world and wear that lens and practice metaphors even more. If you want to sharpen your metaphors, there's a book by the title of Metaphorically Selling by Ann Miller. You can check that out. And if I have the PDF, I will share in the group. Okay, so let's do one more practice for metaphors. Give incidents or dreams with colors of emotions. Wow. Storytelling is the art of keeping the child alive within you. Interesting one, Siam. Okay. So here a company, it might be a company which is not an automobile company, but they have used the metaphor of automobile. Now, why I have shown this here is that that's a one level up sort of metaphor, or I can say that that's a theme-based metaphor. You can do this also. Say, for example, you want to describe a process, your work. So for me, writing is like gym. You flex your muscle. When you go to gym, you don't directly lift weights, right? So when you get into writing, on the very first day, you don't write the book. You practice a bit more, you walk on the treadmill of ideas. Maybe you're starting with one-liners, maybe you're starting with a blog, maybe you're starting with just filling up the prompts here, there on apps. And then gradually you go one by one, you go to the final step of flexing your muscles. And the cherry on the cake would be hiring a coach, which is a fitness coach in terms of gym. And generally, if you say, it would be a writing coach or a book coach. What would they do? They will make your muscle more fitter, faster, easier, and you will love sweating it out. So I have described writing, the whole process, through another process. And that's what you can do with themed metaphors. Picking up a theme, maybe it's farming, maybe it's gardening, maybe it's cycling, describing cycle and writing. So what is the pedal? What is the seat? What is the, wheel? What is the handle for you? And then taking, or maybe a car, car, various parts are there for the car. And then your job versus car. What's the driving seat? What are the brakes? What is the accelerator? What are all these things? What are the tires? What if they get punctured? So you can think on those, and time to describe your work in the chat box. Maybe in 3-4 lines, you can pick up any inanimate object and compare your work with that. It may be cycle, it may be pencil, it may be, a book, it may be a car, it may be truck, it may be any other thing, or it may be a process, just like, exercising, farming, cooking. So describe that. Maybe, coaching is like dash, dash, dash. Coaching is like cycling, and the seat is this, the handle is that, the tire is that. Let's see. Here the person hasn't described their progress, but just by naming Toyota and Lexus, they have done the magic here. Okay, Farina says her work is like a garden with flowers of different fragrance and colors, which make the life beautiful. Is it related to teaching? Yeah, no, your own profession is what I was saying. You can describe storytelling also as that way. Absolutely fine. And I love that you asked that. Journey of ingredients from supermarket to recipe on plate. Oh, wow. Author is chef. Marvelous one. Interesting. So describe your work through a themed metaphor. Theme, because there is not just single metaphor, there are parts of that. My coaching is like growing plant with single stem, but sprouting of many branches, each representing career, health, finance, relationships, personal growth, and contribution. Interesting. So different sizes, plants, trees, saplings. Interesting. And you are nourishing all of those. Mind-blowing. Great. This session would be completely interactive. Teaching is like being the ringmaster in the circus. Wow. Interesting one, Joy. Okay. So pen builders, storytellers, tap into the identity and start thinking in metaphoric terms. Karishma says, my coaching is like finding my way through a tunnel, enjoying the adventure of twists and turns. Wow. Interesting one. You guys are already into that identity, I would say, already have started wearing that hat. Marvelous. Great, great. So keep typing your answers. We move to the next activity. How would you describe creativity in metaphors? These were few of my old time thought answers. I haven't thought the new ones because I love to think on the spot also. So I'll put up some answers or maybe ideate for you guys. But these were the ones which I had ideated some time back. I don't even remember when. I just got the slide and I used it here. So it is the third eye of minds. It's the gateway to touch hearts. It's the language of the soul. It is cultivated with practice, but yeah, that's not a metaphor. But yes, The first three are. What is creativity for you? Manifesting is like planting seeds of ideas into fertile land of consciousness and letting the tree of your dream grow. Wow. Very, very, I would say, a lot of depth in that. Very beautifully described for me. So what is creativity for you? Give it a metaphor. For me, it is an antidote to procrastination also, because when I get the idea, nothing can stop me. Then I start writing. Although I force myself also for ideation. But yes, when there is an idea popping up, then I don't stop. At least I document that. Creativity is drawing. Wow, interesting. Creativity is like therapy for soul. Beautiful. Dipashri says, I'm a gardener who provides proper soil and water, food, okay, to other things. Interesting. Nirupama says, spark of new ideas. Interesting. Manoshka says, creativity is like idea gun. Wow, like holy pichkari ready to shower colorful ideas. Very nice. Actually, a cute and playful one. Siana says, creativity is finding something new in the routine. Yeah, that's a definition. Let's try for the metaphor. Creativity is flowing river, reinventing itself as it flows to meet the ocean. Wow, marvelous. Creativity is drawing water from a well. Interesting. Creativity is like playing in rain. Wonderful. Creativity is like watering the seed to grow into a well-grown plant. Wow. Karishma says creativity is a river remembered, not something you force to flow, but something ancient within you that returns when you are still enough to receive it. It's not performance, it's not perfection, it's permission. Wow, to feel earth, to unearth, to stitch the soul into silence. It has become a poetry, very beautiful one. Creativity is just like finding your way when your car reaches a dead end. Wow. Creativity is like oxygen. You realize the importance when it is not readily available. Like sunrise lights up the dark corners of the mind. Wonderful and super happy. In fact, happier because whoever has attended my previous sessions knows that every now and then I cannot stop emphasizing the importance of metaphors, and I have seen those metaphors being inculcated in many of your writings. The current one which is clicking to my mind is Nirupama's some article which I had read, and she was using metaphors over there. And although there was only one metaphor in the whole article, but that one metaphor made a lot of impact. The way she described that was a very simple one, but that was very beautiful one. And yes, I remember that that was about not using very heavy or the high vocabulary words, but using the simple words. And the metaphor which she had given was when you use high vocabulary words, it's just like opening a present, but not finding anything in that. So very wonderful one. Yeah. Spark for the flame. Interesting. Wonderful. So from now onwards, whether you're describing yourself, maybe your work, or something which you are writing on or your topic, don't just give the definition. That's a very kindergarten thing. Everybody knows the definition, what creativity is. What you can bring, your essence, your personal essence will come only through your personal metaphor. Like you can see, none of the metaphors are matching here, but still you guys are describing the same concept with a lot of authenticity because you thought about your personal metaphors. Every metaphor is individually connected with you, and that is why the impact of every metaphor is different. And the same definition has been described wonderfully well by each one of you. Manjulata says, my coaching 2H3 chemistry is more than formula. It is a life transformation and healing. Yeah. Creativity is an art which takes the driver's seat when the technology takes the back seat. Wow. Archana says, creativity is sunset with a glass of wine on the beach. Wow. Wonderful. Don't define a term metaphor. Yeah. Obviously not saying that I'm going to present a metaphor, but just say it. Yeah, not defining the term metaphor really matters, and that gives an aha moment. It's like working on your psychology. You don't know that you got hypnotized just because that metaphor was there. So that's the magic of using metaphors. And that was the very first, I would say, practice which all the storytellers do. time for the second one. Okay, have a look just in 1 second, and I'm stopping the screen share after 2 minutes, not 2 minutes, just a minute. And tell me how many you remember. Don't take snapshots. How many you remember? Type in the chat box. Okay, Sienna remembers one. Thief. Okay, thief, computer. Dog, chair. Okay, Dipashri says dog, chair. Computer, chair, thief, dog. Computer, the chair, thief, dog. Money, dog, chair. Okay, okay. 4 words at max right now. Thief, computer. Okay, 4 words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words. 5 words. Let me count how many are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 13 words are there. Okay. So time for the next round. Now have a look. These are the same words. Just have a look and again type in the chat box what all you saw. Shoes, prints. Okay, 4 words are there. Okay, the number is kind of increasing. So when you saw the words versus when you saw the words with pictures, which stage? Stage number 1 gave you more memory, or stage number 2 gave you more memory to capture the words? Stage number 1 or stage number 2? Slide number 1 or slide number 2? The pics one, the images one. Okay. Majority is saying images one. Some people may relate to the words also, as we know is. That's absolutely nothing right or wrong. It's just the research-based thing. For you, words. Okay. Interesting. Now, the 5-star storyteller, sorry, the 5-star storyteller knows that there are several kind of people. As we can see, one also for few people, they remembered words more rather than pictures. And a 5-star storyteller keeps that in mind, that I'm not just serving to the people who are just listening to me, but I'm also writing or speaking for people who are visual centric also, who are audio centric also, and who just learn by words, or who just are like, okay, if we see the words without pictures, that's okay for us. And when that gets inculcated in your mind as a kind of, instruction template, that, this, I have to keep that in mind. You use not just words which are related to sensory words, like beautiful is sight related. This is sounding good is, audio related. This clicks well is kinesthetic. Clicks, if you are listening the sound, then it is audio related. So not just, they just don't use sensory related words, but they also do what? Guess. If there is nothing, none of these there, if there's a storyteller and they have to go present and talk about something where they don't have a laptop, they're not given permission to use laptop, so imagery to use ho nahi payega. How would they take care of such audience where audio, visual, and all sensory parts or sensory needs can be taken care of? Linking, okay. I didn't get it, but yes, yeah, linking what? Making them imagine, yes. Story is there, but still the story has to be told in a way where they see the picture. One way to do that is definitely using the words which paint the picture. Use those sensory related words, yes. VAK, yes, use words which are, yeah, same, correct. What apart from that? So Okay, we got few answers here. Featuring, asking people to remember something related to that. Yes. Showing the things around. Okay. Visuals. As I said, ki visuals agar nahi mila to. So one is the how to paint a picture through words is using images, using similar words. That's there. But when you don't have the tool to do that, when you don't have the tool to show that. So using images is one. Using imagery. What is the difference between images and imagery? Yeah, intonation to be taken care. Imagery is getting people to visualize. Absolutely. On point. So images is images. Imagery is getting people to visualize. Say, for example, saying that she was sad versus there was a lump in her throat. Her eyes filled up with tears. You're not using the word sad, but still you are able to visualize the picture when I said that. If someone is happy, how does happiness looks like on their face? That is imagery, painting your emotions. So images, imagery, and third one is becoming the imagery. How would you become the imagery? Visualization of the story using emotions to connect others. Act. Yes, yes. Somewhere you are near, very, very near. And one more hint is that is somewhere related to NLP also. We have learned that part. So those who are NLPians can maybe connect the dots. How to be the imagery? Yeah, hand gesture. What is that called? What is the term for that? Body language, yes.
Expressions.
Expressions. Okay, one more hint. 3V formula. Who can guess it now? Yeah, okay. Visual, verbal, and third one? Na, bhul gaye. Victim nahi. Yes. Okay. Visual, verbal, vocal. So verbally you can be by speaking. And when I say speaking, it is intonation, it is the pitch of your voice, it is the way you take break, it is the way you are stopping, pausing, breathing. All that comes into when you're talking with words, what kind of words you are using. Vocally is the intonation part, where your vocal part comes into the scene. And visually, with your body language, as many of you have already talked about the body language part. Visually, your body language would be there. Vocally, your tone, your pitches, your breaks into your sentences, how small or how big they are, where are you pausing, where are you moving forward is the visual part. And verbally, what kind of words are you using? When you use all three ways, while speaking, definitely speaking, because here there is no written part. So there you can be the imagery through this 3V formula. Now NLP, and it's a revision for NLP folks. Okay. So that was the part which I wanted to tap into. Let's do a quick tiny exercise on this. I'm typing, okay. So let's paint some emotions, just two of them. How would you describe she was happy? Through using imagery, not images. Definitely you can use images when you're presenting. Imagery, describe this emotion. How does happiness look on her? She was happy. She jumped. Wonderful. What else? When somebody is happy, just to give a hint, when somebody is happy, what is their body language? Just describe that without using the word happy. So tell me when you are happy without telling me, without using the word happy. Her face glowed. Interesting. Smiling in her own world. Yes. She was floating on cloud 9. Wonderful. She moved with ease. Yes. She was dancing all around the house. Interesting. Her eyes were lit up. Wonderful. And her cheeks turned apple red, and there was a bounce in her feet. Marvelous. Smiling from ear to ear, she was on the top of the world. Yes. So next time, whenever you are saying she was happy, she was sad, she was bored, she was frustrated, or I am frustrated, don't just write these words. They are dead words. Said is dead. You're just telling. Show them. She felt light as feather. Interesting. She was flying with her wings. Wow. Wonderful. So convert, it is also one line, and the sentence where you say she's happy also is one line. So it's not like that you're filling up too much and you're using lot many words over there. You're just painting the picture in reader's mind. So instead of having a picture worth 1,000 words, we are having words which are worth million pictures. Her eyes widened with a twinkle and dimples going deeper into blushing cheeks. Wow. Interesting. Great. So this was the second part where a 5-star storyteller becomes the imagery, uses images and uses that 3V formula. Whether they are writing, whether they are talking, whether they are using the tool props or not. But this formula gives you a lot of punch in not just your writing, but also in speaking. The third trait of a 5-star storyteller. Okay, tell me whether this is a story or not. Read it and tell me whether that's a story or not. Yes for yes, a story. No for no, not a story. Sandeep says yes, Karishma says yes. Okay. Yeah. It is a report, not a story, Dipashri says. Okay. Joy says yes. Bhairavi says no. Okay. Let few more votes, replies come in. No, a review. It's an introduction of a story. Okay. It's a narrative enhancing. This can be a story. It is an incident. Okay. Those who said no, can someone of them unmute and tell me how? Manoj sir, thank you. Yes, yeah, Dipashri. I'll stop the screen share. Yeah.
Okay, so it was a very bland narration, mostly facts, and there was no emotion involved there. No conflict, no conflict solved. Just simply one after the other, the facts were stated.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Very on point. There was no emotion. There was no conflict. Absolutely agree. Anyone else wants to add why this wasn't a story? So today we'll learn what actually a story is and will not confuse any other thing with story. Joy says it's a case. So who else is willing to put their point forward? Why this is not a story? Who said no here? You can unmute. Vinu says no. Vinu, would you be interested to put across your point? Okay, I guess she cannot unmute. Okay, that's all right. Story makes me feel associated to the content. Yeah. Right. So that's not a story. First of all, the very important part is emotions, which Dipashri rightly mentioned. That comes very evidently. What was happening as a fact is mentioned. We were frustrated. How it was impacting us is nowhere mentioned. So for first part is that there's no impact, there's no effect mentioned over there. Until the time there is no effect, there's no conflict. So first part was that there's no effect, which could have been shown through emotion, through something over there. There's just, ye ho raha tha. These all things were happening and nothing was working out. But, and obviously there's no resolution, conflict. This is just, one conflict after the other. What is the impact of the conflict? Who is talking? What are the people? There's nobody there, no character, anything. Apart from that, even if we consider that as V part and not having any characters, the most important part of 5-star storyteller does, which we often overlook, is the timeline. When this happened. Not at all for that, because it is a corporate story. It was a corporate sort of story. So a big no-no for using once upon a time thing. But yes, few weeks ago, 1 month ago, on this certain date, or when we were during the lockdown. Why mentioning timeline is very important when I'm saying that that's a trait of a 5-star storyteller. How does it play on a reader's psychology or a listener's psychology? Yeah, physical attributes are missing. Why mentioning timeline is important? Helps to connect. Yes, helps to connect to what? To what do you connect with the timeline? Imagination. Yes, it definitely tickles your imagination. Logical mind could not get it, but yes, okay. Picturizing, yes, definitely. So yeah, helps to connect with the time. When we say during COVID times, there's a lot of picture already builds up. What were the challenges already? There might be, there's this curiosity in the reader and the listener that, okay, it is 1 week ago. Okay, so person must have developed. If it is COVID times, then there would be altogether different kind of challenges. If it is 10 years ago, they are expecting something. Okay, something must have changed, maybe positive, maybe a lesson, maybe negative, and they also travel back. So the main point here is that when you are mentioning a timeline, you are making them time travel. And through that time traveling, they're not just traveling into that situation. They also associate themselves, they put themselves in your shoes at that timeline. 10 years ago, you put yourself also into 10 years ago. And maybe some connection happens. 10 years ago, these were the problems. You will start connecting with your 10 years ago's problems. And somewhere, because mind main habit is association and connection. That is why mirror neurons get activated, because you start connecting your dots. Yeah, probably a psychological effect. It is a psychologically proven and scientifically proven effect of using time zones over there. You can even mention times also. If you're talking about today, suppose you're talking about this workshop, you can mention the time that at this time, this certain workshop was happening and these were my takeaways. And this was my doubt and I thought it would never be solved and this got solved. So time, when you mention a time, as Yogita rightly mentioned, it connects. It connects with so many things, not just with the timeline. It gets you transported to that time. Reader involved is involved in more reading and setting the stage. Now we are here and imagine the future. Yes, exactly. For the future also, it helps a lot. Because when you're saying, I'm currently here, and then you say, imagine a future where that is happening, which generally the copywriting part, where this is the common technique which happens, future pacing. So that's what the magic of mentioning time is. Yeah, definitely. You can mention the timeline and go ahead. That would be a great part. Okay, next is there was no imagery. As we say, there was no imagery for emotions. There was no imagery in terms of they hadn't described anything. It was just the facts. This is the company, that's the problem, that was happening. We were waiting for solution. No solution came. So there was no imagery over there. And third is definitely the challenge was there, but the change wasn't there. Any story would be incomplete even if you're having the conflict, but not a resolution. It's just like you just had chapati, but not with the sabji, just plain chapati. It would not taste well. It would be bland. It would end somewhere in dissatisfaction, confusion from a reader. As you, if I take the story back, if I go back to the slide, so nothing was happening is the end. Now you are made to think, what is this? Nothing was happening. What are you trying to show me? You're just telling me something. Okay, fine. But if that's a story, that's not clicking to me as a story. Even if the resolution is negative, that, we tried these things, nothing worked. In fact, the things toppled even worse. And in between, there's an imagery, in between, there's a challenge, in between, there are characters, in between, timelines are there. And the struggle is actually painted, where a person is shouting what exactly that frustration is looking like in the company, what all they are doing as an action. That would be painting the picture of frustration. When all that would be there would be a story. Yeah, review. What is no resolution but just a struggle is there in story? What if no resolution but just a struggle is there in the story? So struggle is there, but a story will be story only if, as I said, the struggle can end up in a struggle. Say, for example, the movie Sanju movie, which you saw, there were many conflicts where one major conflict was when his father died. And there was a change after that in him. That change was not positive. The change became that change made him struggle more. The struggle increased. He did not improvise after that. So still there was a change, positive or negative. There would be a change in the story. If there is a conflict, how can you say that a conflict is there, but it is not affecting the character? Then how come that's even a story? If conflict is there, either the character would be running away from that, that's also a change, and getting worse, or the character would be facing that or initially not accepting that. All these things are actually a change which initially they are not accepting, but finally, even if they accept, how do they decide their actions is completely their choice. How are you making your character work? It may be negative, it may be positive, it may be negative and then positive if you have multiple conflicts, but there has to be a change in the story. So more than a challenge, if there is no change in the story, that's a flat story. Change can be anything, positive to negative. Yes, we can also write a flashback for such stories. Indeed, giving the background, definitely. So, yeah, that was the part. Now, that's a surprise for Nirupama. I picked up this story because this story has which we talked about. Just give me a moment. I have to minimize my screen to open this. Yeah. And I'm glad that Nirupama is here. It's her story only. And just have a look. I'll also post the link in the group so that those who are fast readers or slow readers, I cannot pace with your thing and I don't know who is reading where. So I'm just reading that aloud. The first part is a lot of imagery happening over there. How is that situation affecting her? Now you can compare the red block story versus this story. Nirupama sat, basically it was something which was happening at her work. She was not confident enough that she can handle that project. But how that is described here is the imagery is what I'm talking about. She sat there at the project brief on her desk. The words blurred together, offering no clarity, just ambiguity, uncertainty, and a growing sense of overwhelm. No clear instructions, minimal resources, a vague, shapeless task that seemed impossible to grasp. Her mind raced with familiar, unwelcome thought. What if I mess this up? A tight knot formed in her chest. She wasn't thinking about solutions, just a relentless loop of doubts and worst-case scenarios. The fear of failure gripped her, making her feel small, stuck, and utterly unprepared. She had been there before. The same mental script playing on repeat like a tape recorder. I don't know how to handle this. A thought so automatic, so ingrained that it felt like an unshakable truth. But what if it wasn't? Now, this is the conflict described over there, the situation, how it is affecting it. What if she could rewrite the script? And things like the tight knot in her chest, things like where, her mental chatter is written here. What if I can't do that? All that is describing her emotions. Now, after that, something came up which changed it. Everything changed the day she stepped into Master NLP program, and after that, things changed. And how things changed, how change happened, that also is painted through imagery, through maybe dialogues, through maybe the changed belief over there, through how she was handling the task, how that way changed. And then you can add the dialogue also if you want to add the dialogue where she wanted to pay gratitude to her mentor. That's what she did, and that has been included there. And then finally giving it a conclusion that, this is the whole story of the change. Now, that's the power of a situation, simply describing a situation versus describing it with emotions, emotionally charged situation. How do you paint that? So that was the part. Now, when you look back at that red block story, which I had showed you, there's a lot of difference. And I hope I'm able to answer Purvi's question through this example also. If not, we can talk about it in the end also. Okay, the fourth trait. Don't use the S word. Okay, I haven't shared the screen. Yeah. So fourth trait is don't use the S word. What is the S word here? When you are telling a story, don't use the S word. What can be the S word? Sorry, okay. One hint, I have already said that in my sentence. Story, yes. Whenever you are telling a story, don't say that I'm going to tell a story. Directly start the story, whether you are talking or whether you're writing. Sometimes it so happens that, we talk about some incident, maybe, I read about a suicide and this reminds me of a story. No. I read about a suicide and it reminded me of 10 years back time or whatever. It reminded me of the times when I was in college or something like that. Again, you're transporting the reader back into the timeline without telling that you're telling a story. Because the moment you tell that part, in creative scenarios, that is fine. When you're actually going into the, open mics and all, that is fine. But I'm talking about the overall scenario because most of you are educators, coaches, there, or even in corporates. When you say that, I'm going to tell a story, that's not taken very seriously. So tell a story without telling that you are going to tell a story. Just start 10 years back, 5, whatever, or this reminds me of that, So that part, if you're not mentioning the S word, that would make a story more captivating because they would never know that they got into the zone. But if you're declaring it beforehand, sometimes they might be like, I'm not in a mood of reading a story. Leave it. Why would I want to know a story? So it depends on reader's mood. And just to tame that mood, don't use the word story over there. Just directly start. If you're not using the word story, I'm going to tell a story sometimes. And if you don't know where to start, you start with a very simple template sort of question. Have you ever? And then go ahead. Have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought about that? Let's do one tiny exercise. Whatever has been your recently published article, go back to that. If it's not starting with a question, convert that first line into a have you ever question and type in the chat box. Just that one line of your article. Rephrase that into the question. Whatever line, whichever way you have started of whatever topic, convert that into a have you ever question. Have you ever reached the peak? Okay, so maybe you can clarify peak of what? The mountain peak or the success peak, what? Have you ever given a thought about what? So it has to be clarified also, like, have you ever given a thought about what? Do you know or have you ever heard, yeah, what if one day? Yes, yes, definitely. What if one day, what if I tell you, that can be also one part. Have you ever thought of a book being your best friend? Interesting. Have you ever thought of optimism benefits? Yes. Okay, you want them to think. All right, Arumugam. Have you ever wondered why many nutritionists are obese, although they are supposed to know the science behind obesity? Very captivating one. Why? Because what Dipashri has done here is not just asking a question, but also telling the truth on face, or maybe I would say making them smell the coffee. Two contradictions, nutritionist and obese. So when you are asking a question and putting two contradictions together, that's a killer recipe. So if you can bring that up and put two contradictions together in that. Have you ever noticed that the top-notch writers don't write every day? And that will make you think, oh, what? Then what do they do? And the whole article would be about that. Have you ever thought that you would take a break and find your passion in life through writing? Interesting. Have you ever given a thought about your mental health? Yes. Have you ever thought why so many teenagers are having mental health issues? Very interesting one. What happens to one when they face situations like, yes, interesting. So starting with a question, that's just one way to start. There are other ways to start as what if questions, or what if I tell you, or if you ask me dash, 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 my answer would be dash, something like that. Basically hooking them through question mark. Have you ever thought of letting go? Letting go can let manifestation in. Wow. Very nicely formed, actually. It's like a lot of NLP also has been used here in terms of some interesting one to be. So if you are confused anyways, where to start the story from, if I don't tell that I'm starting a story, use a question, which is common technique. Use a timeline that would grab the reader very fast. Questions grab the reader very fast, not just because it is a question, but also because it makes them think on the very first line. And it again connects them and engages them. That's very important, that they get engaged in that. Through timeline also the same thing is happening. They get engaged. When they're getting transported, they're getting engaged in your story. Okay. Next trait is, fifth one is the then, now, how formula. Past, present, and solution. Generally, the stories which you might have seen is, I used to be like this, and then I did this, and then I became like this. So it is the opposite, then, how, and now. But here we are talking about then, now, and how. So you tell about the past, then you tell about the present, just facts, what was there and what is there now. And then you tell about the solution. Why this is better than the other one, the opposite one, is how many of you have heard about Zeigarnik effect? Yeah, Purvi has. So Zeigarnik effect, I might be wrong, Zeigarnik. Yeah, Zeigarnik. Zeigarnik effect is a term which is used when it's kind of, if we talk about literary language, it's cliffhanger. You make reader curious. Serials hote hain, you see every serial's episode ends where you are very curious. Oh God, why did it end now? I want to see the next thing, what is happening. And that's what this Zeigarnik effect is about. You keep them so hooked that they are they're compelled to read it further. They're compelled to know further, because past aisa tha and now present has become like this. How? And if they have read the past, they have read the present, they will definitely be interested in reading the solution rather than past, solution, and then present. So that's how it plays on your mind. You created the same with S word. Sorry, I could not understand. Next episode preview. Yeah, exactly. So one example of this is something like this is something I found online. So nothing of my creation, but yes, this is the past where Acme Inc. was having an employee turnover problem. They were losing employees almost twice as faster as their nearest competitor. In fact, they had the highest employee turnover rate in their category. I'm sure you know from your own experience that employee turnover is a problem. This problem is, it costs a great deal of money in recruiting, fees, and downtime. It can alongside, it can be detrimental to the employee's morale also. So that's the past part. Present may, what all happened, the company talked about that we started working with this, that. And 3 people we hired and all, but they did not tell about the solution here. And after this comes the solution, whatever the solution this company might be giving. So then comes the solution that this is a step 1, step 2, and step 3. This is how we did it, or this is how I did it. So never give them the how first. They are there for the how. And if you're serving them how, you are over serving them. You're serving them the dessert before the meal is over. And keep the dessert for the last part, keep the solution for the last part, and then see the magic. They will be reading the full write-up, or they will be listening to you fully. This seems to be this seems to be a twist on the feel, felt, found formula. Yeah, kind of. Yes, feel, felt, found formula. Yes, definitely. Some stories have open end. Writers leave it to the readers to imagine the end. Yes, definitely. That's also there, and they have a lot of emotional punch there, and that's why it's open for readers' interpretation also. The monk who sold his Ferrari had a similar style. Wow, interesting one to point out, Siana. Great insight. Okay, so this was the part. Now what you can do as a practice is go back to the ones where you were following the opposite, where then, how, and now was there. Now you can go back and tweak it and see. Now you can not reshare, but read it for yourself, or maybe the next one which you're writing, write in this format and see how the impact is changing. Okay, next comes the 6th one. The HI formula. Anyone knows what is the acronym HI about? What is the acronym for HI? Stands for HIGH. Sorry. HIGH. What can be that? HIGH. Could be HIGH. High, ऊंचा वाला high. I'll reshare the screen for you. But that's an acronym I'm using here. So H stands for something, I stands for something, G stands for something, and H stands for something. High integration growth. Okay. A very simple one it is. And it's another hint is it's a sentence. Hook. Okay. Arumugam says it's a hook. How I grew here, very close by Bhervi. Siana, how I, yes. Hold, inquire, ground, humanize. Okay. As I said, it's a sentence. How I got here, bang on. So your story, even if you're talking about obstacles, people are not interested, or they are lesser interested in what you overcame, but they're more interested in how you overcame that, because that will give them the key to reach there, or the key to unlock the blocks within them. What I overcame is less important, although it is important, definitely you'll have to mention that. But how I overcame that, how I got there, what was my struggle and how I personally handled it. Till the time you're not bringing your I-ness into that, your I part, your personality, your way to do that, into that impact won't be there. It is connected with the authenticity in writing is what I'm talking about. And every story would be different. If I ask each one of you that, how you got into writing and how have you reached where you are right now and what were the struggles, I'm sure each one might have the same struggles, but the way you handled or the way each one of us handled that might be different. For some, maybe a book did the magic. For some, maybe a mentor did the magic. For some, maybe just being consistent and, putting out silly stuff out there did the magic. Maybe some are just starting, but yet are looking for such kind of magic stories around. So this how part really matters, and how I got there is the high formula. One simple example, which I did not know that formula back then when I did my TEDx talk, but I'll leave the link in the group description, in the chat also, because that's a 8-9 minutes talk. If you're interested, I can play that around to understand how I got there, how I'm talking about becoming a book coach, but how I started and how I concocted that. I was not aware about the high formula back then, but yes, that's the one which fitted when I thought about a content, where do I find such content? So shall I play this one? This is, I guess, 8 minutes. Give me a yes in the chat box. I need to minimize again to play that. What is S? Okay, yes. All right. So just to keep the how I got there, how many junctures are there? You have to count. Because the story is about how I conquered, though I did not know where I would be, but yes, it will give you answers. Okay. Just one I'm playing. Tell me if it is audible. What's happening? Just a moment. Okay, let me share this. If I ask you, what is that one thing which is missing from your life, your answer. Okay. Was it audible? Yeah, audible. Okay, fine. I'm playing. If I ask you, what is that one thing which is missing from your life, your answers may vary. But what if I ask you, what made Steve Jobs evolve from a 2-person company in a garage to... Or if I ask you, what made Bill Gates to reach the pinnacle of success despite being a Harvard dropout? Or what if I ask you, what made Albert Einstein to reach at the top of the world despite not being able to talk for 9 long years? Your answers may still vary, but these answers will have some common skills which might be patience, persistence, or passion, right? The story which I am going to tell you here is not going to prove you wrong, but it will surely widen your perspective. How? Just like this question, how, my story revolves around questions. Yes, a lot of questions. Questions which will make you think, rethink, and resume. Questions which are often the signposts and warning signs in the journey called life, which we often tend to ignore. Questions which are also the speed breakers to make you go slow yet steady. Questions which are not interventions but are introspections. And lastly, questions which are answers in themselves. So back in school, I was the brilliant kid who always scored highest in every academic exam. What I did not know back then, that when it will come to the exam of life, I will fail multiple times. And whenever I failed and whenever I tried to get up, as unbelievable as it may sound, motivation could never pick me up. Yes, schools are those fairy lands where every dream seems to come true. Books are those magic wands to our career. The more you will read, the more you will succeed. But what happens when you enter the real Kurukshetra of life? Can books be your real weapon when you enter the real world? How far can your bookish knowledge take you? Can you have a victory ride on the wings of motivation? That's when life slaps you hard. I too had my own share of SAR experiences, both personal and professional ones. So when I was in 12th standard, I had topped my state level exams. And that is why I was covered by a few local newspapers and news channels. And that's when I met the first question and the very first mistake of my life. A journalist asked me, what do you want to become once you are done with your studies? And my answer was backed by all the half-baked perceptions of the society that a brilliant kid in arts should always follow brilliant career in Indian administrative services. So here was my answer, that I want to become an IAS officer without any kind of reflection. My life after that question never had any traces of me trying to achieve to my goal of Indian administrative services. Why? Because the question which was asked right, but my answer was wrong. Wrong because I never thought what I really wanted in my life. All said and done, done and dusted, written and forgotten, and rest really became the history because I never took arts in my college. On the contrary, on my whims and fancies, I still don't know why I chose BBA despite having a phobia for mathematics. What followed next were some idiotic steps on the chessboard of life. I left BBA after 2 years. I joined aviation to become cabin crew and to have access to glamour, which was missing in a small town. This was high time to have my second question in life. And this time, the question came from my mother. She asked me, would you be able to travel extensively being a cabin crew when you are our only kid? This question seemed like a very good friend who held my hand and waited in silence till I made my decision. Yes, I made my decision and I shifted my career again. But this time for good. I chose mass communication for my graduation and masters and I did pretty well. I interned and worked with some reputed names in the industry. But something was still missing. What? Exactly. The question. But now, since I was fitting very well into the definitions of the society, which was on stability, nobody bothered to ask me the question. So when nobody asked me the question, I thought to ask the question to myself. So I asked a question, what is that one thing which would make me satisfied? Not motivated, not rich, not happy, but satisfied. What is that one thing which will make me feel worthwhile even when my degrees cannot? And when I was looking for answers, suddenly an online writing competition popped up. And I, being an avid reader, just applied for that. After giving a try, the result is 4 books which I have written down the line. Life kept on rolling and marriage came into the scene with lots of signposts and warning signs. This time I struggled personally to become a sanskari bahu and a sanskari wife. And I started dreading questions. Why? Because every single day I was bombarded with a lot of questions which made me think, rethink, and doubt my capability, my existence, and my degrees, that they are nothing but just a stamp on the paper. The $1 million question here is, did I give up? Thankfully not. I did not give up because I had somewhere read a quote that you live your challenges more in your mind than in reality. And I kept this quote close to my heart and I kept surviving while reading books and healing myself. But it was time for the next question in my life. And this time, this question was asked by my husband. He asked me, what is the use of reading so many books if you cannot implement them in your personal or professional life? The question was like a sting of a bee. It seemed like a curse, but it was actually a blessing in disguise. I would call it the much needed magic wand in my life, which was somewhere missing. So after a little self-sabotage, I tried to find some permutations or combinations or some calculations to solve the jigsaw of my purpose. After a lot of contemplation, I was finally able to solve the jigsaw of my puzzle and found the purpose of my life. I decided to help all the budding writers who wanted to share their burning stories with the world and who wanted to live even after they die through their books. I became a book coach.
My first mentee, who was the PhD holder and who had completed her PhD after her marriage and her son, she came to me and she said that she has a rejuvenating story to share with the world. And indeed, her story was very rejuvenating. But she was also having her own Kurukshetra of questions. So when she told me that she is also having her own battle of identity despite being a PhD holder, an answer from within came outside to her. Let your book be the answer. So here I am asking all those people who have a dream just like me. I want to ask them all the questions which will reframe their perspectives, questions which will make them pause but will give them clarity, questions which will be not an escape but an evolvement, questions which will be shaping their mindset, and questions which might not have answers but surely have actions in them. So here I am asking you a question. Are you ready to ask a question to yourself? Are you ready to gift yourself a question mark? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Manjulata. So let's do a revision of the session. What all things were there and what all things were not there in the talk when I told the whole story. We read 6 traits of a 5-star storyteller. What all were there? What all were not there?
You used the word story in the
Yeah.
starting.
Absolutely. I was expecting that koi to notice karega, please. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Acha, volume low tha. I'm really sorry. I could not. Maybe I did not check the chat, or maybe you are posting now. Thank you so much, Purvi. Thank you. Yeah, metaphors were there. Yes. Yogita said that I use the word story. As I said, na, I'm going to tell a story and my story is this, it is on questions. So I was using the word story over there. But since that's a TEDx platform, you can do that. Still, I would say I'm generalizing that part that we are all into coachings and corporates. The impact of a story comes when you don't tell that it is a story. That's even more interesting. Timeline was there. Yes, everywhere timeline was there when I was in 12th and this and that sort. Emotions were there, metaphors were there, question was there, imagery was there. Wonderful. Great. Now an extra bonus tip, I would say, questions and questions relevant to create curiosity. Okay. Yes, interesting. Now, why each one of you remembers questions, because I repeated the word questions so many times in the whole talk. In NLP, we call it anchoring through words. When you are anchoring through words, I think it was, who is that booklet guy? I forgot his name. He had given a TEDx talk, or he had given a talk, I don't remember. But yes, he had used a certain word again and again. So it was maybe in my talk, it was about question. Maybe you are picking up something where you are repeating that talk and that gets embedded. It's kind of a hypnotic trance through words. So when you're using a phrase multiple times with tact, not with force. Here it was used with tact. I used multiple questions as junctures of my life. I could have directly said that, these were the challenges, or these were the junctures, or these were the things which really made me what I am. But I connected that with one single thing, which is questions. You may connect it with the one single thing where, every time I read every time I picked up a book, a quote connected with me, and that a quote spoke to me, something like that. And that becomes an anchor, a verbal anchor for people, if it is audio centric. Otherwise, it's a visual or written anchor. Amrit Deshmukh, yes. So even his one of TEDx talk, I remember, he had the same anchoring hook of words. If I find that video, I will be sharing in the group, the storytelling group, and you can have a look at that again. So you can anchor people with that, and it will be more retainable, because you're repeating something which is not just getting repeated for the sake of it, but it has a lot of connection. It has a lot of emotion involved in that through that word. It has a lot of stories involved in that through that word. It may be a timeline also. 10 years back, I did that. 10 years back, I did that. 10 months back, I did that. 10 days back, I did that. And now 10 days after, I will be doing that. So 10, 10, 10 becomes an anchor. Now, how you concoct a story around that, that's the skill which a storyteller can develop. But yes, the anchoring part is there. Next tip which I would say is ending it with a question which is open-ended to them. As I asked to them, are you ready to gift yourself a question mark? That if I wouldn't have said that, I guess the talk would have been just like, me. But I threw the ball again in their court. That it was about me, but you can do the same. And are you ready to do that? So by asking a question, it's not just that, you are stopping the me part, but it's more about making them think again. They might have got strayed in the story in the way. You might have started with a question, but when you're ending it with a question, you bring them on track again. That it's like entrance inside the story and exit through a question. And that exit through a question becomes so powerful that the question keeps on lingering in their mind, gives them a lot of thought that, okay, maybe after this, you can have a thought that how many questions I ignored in my life, or maybe how many questions were there and I gave right answers to them, and that's why I'm here today. That may become another, write-up for you guys. So that's another thing which great storytellers do, and that becomes the more questions you're using in the end, the more involvement you're getting from them. Maybe not initially, it won't happen. Rome wasn't built in a day. Yes, but those who are getting clicked with that definitely will start answering. Those who are authentically engaging with your content. The question that question hooked the speaker to the mind of listener. Absolutely. Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, that was very hooking. Okay, let me. Cool. So that was about that. And so basically we did cover not just bonus one, which came on the flow, and I just shared with you guys. Now the question is, do you want to be a 5-star storyteller? We have already done 8 traits, but time to convert those into the traits. I have a program. If you're interested, you can ping me. I'm just talking about the program, and that too just in 15 days. There's not a longer duration. And why not a longer duration? Because it's on that principle. I've again forgot the name of the principle, but basically the more time you give to something, the more you procrastinate. If I would have kept a 1-month course or 3 months course, what I've seen over a period of time, I've launched 3 months courses also and 3 months, memberships also. But life keeps on happening, and it's nothing like, I'm blaming it on them. And then the spark goes. Whereas when it comes to 7-day, 3-day, 5-day, 15 days, it's the momentum keeps on going. And that's one of your work expands to fill the available time. Yes. Which law it is? Parkinson's law, right? Yeah, Parkinson's law. So I'm going by Parkinson's law. That's why keeping a very short duration of just 15 days cohort. So ready for a 7-star commitment, where what will happen is, it is a cutting edge storytelling. What you will learn, as you have learned many things new here and some things older, but the practices are new. There, everything would be new. Nothing ever heard of, which I've found out, especially the non-linear part. So there would be non-linear story structures. Storytelling program, which is a 15 days cohort. There would be a process of idea mill, how to do that and how to bring that up. There would be a SP dance method. So that would be a very different one. You might not have heard about that. These are they may not be a framework, but yes, these are the tiny hacks which we will implement in our stories. We will be doing assignments for that. And you will be writing stories after every method is uncovered through that's how we'll be moving forward. So implementation is the main key. And also there will be the contrast contra method. So these are nowhere the before, after the copywriting methods, which you have been practicing, the hero's journey, future pacing, I'm putting all those things aside. what you will be discovering is something very new here. And that is coming from a lot of research which has happened in science. And thankfully, I could read those things and understand those and practice those. So it's coming from that place. So if you're hungry for details, more details, these are the details. It is a 15 days cohort, very implementation based cohort. So if a session is happening, there would be 4 live sessions. So 1 week, 2 sessions, and next week, 2 sessions, Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. IST. 10 storytelling prompts also will be given apart from these 4 hacks, which is there. And if I would add anything more on the go, I would do that. And there would be a Story Hunters journal at the end, which would be an ebook, which would help you to hunt stories, sniff stories around you, and make a note of that. Because for me, more than telling the story, capturing the story is the whole game changer. So that idea was there in my mind, because most of the time we lose stories, we don't capture them. And that happens with me also many a times when I'm very lethargic and I'm just lying down and something comes up. I'm like, "Theek hai, uth jaungi, tabhi yaad rahega, I'll capture that." But that doesn't happen. That vanishes. And that most of the time keeps me on toes. I keep a board or a pen and paper everywhere, or maybe, I type in my mobile. So my whole things are filled up with something or the something. But yes, so keeping that in mind, what if a Story Hunter journal, one journal is there, you may copy the prompts in your, if you're a pen and paper person, you may copy the prompts and write it there. If you're a digital person, you can directly do it in the ebook. Or if you are a person who does it on, maybe lists or all, you can convert that into a list and do that. So that's the part. Its original price would be 2499 INR for 15 days cohort. Early birds till 20th March will be getting at 1999 only. And so it is starting from 1st of April. So don't be an April fool. Make your April full of stories. So if you're interested, that's my Google Pay UPI ID. You can be a 7-star storyteller with that, because none of the techniques, that much assurance I'm giving, none of the techniques is already known by you. So that's something new on the platter with the implementation part. Now, so it would be, kind of a tennis game where I'm throwing the ball and you're throwing it back through the article or through the write-up to me. And then again, one more technique and then one more write-up, or maybe 2 more, that's up to you. So that was about today's session, 5-star storytelling and becoming a 5-star storyteller. So congratulations on becoming a 5-star storyteller. And I'm very sure that these will be in practice. Most of it might be in practice, yet a revision is always necessary in life, be it a revision of life lessons or be it a revision of writing lessons. So yes, any questions, I'm open to that. Any sharings, I'm open to that. Thank you so much to each one of you for participating with lots and lots of enthusiasm. I loved it. Tips going ear to ear on this offer. Wow, wow. I love the imagery. Wonderful. So any sharings, any questions, most welcome. Okay. All right. So if no questions, I'm considering it as that. You can unmute and directly talk.
I was late in this session, so we'll get some recording for it.
Yes, this recording will be available till 1st of April
Okay.
in the group. So I will leave the link by tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, most welcome. Most welcome, Purvi, Joy, most welcome. Thank you so much. Yeah, Heena, thank you. Thank you, Manjulata. Yeah, Archana, thank you so much. Thank you, Siana. Thank you, Anand sir. Vinu, thank you so much. Karishma, wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Deep gratitude to you too. Yeah, see you soon, Vinu. Okay, so thank you to each one of you.
Thank you, Heena. Thank you very much.
Yes, I will be dropping the link of Amrit Deshmukh if I get that. And if anything else regarding this, which I can help you guys with, I will be surely dropping links. I'm very fond of dropping links. I don't know why. That's what I keep on doing in my community. So I'll keep on dropping the links. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, Deepashri. Wow. Wow. Very beautifully described. Bhairavi, Yogita, thank you.